let's go ahead. It wouldn't make any sense. We'd be doing that for a whole other year without any dedicated resources to take any action. So that's the point.
Okay.
But I'll defer to the chair of the committee.
Well said.
Okay.
Well, I certainly understand the need to build it into the budget. On the other hand, what I'm hearing is there's still some ongoing discussions of where that next phase or the next evolution is going to go.
Yeah.
So it's timely, but there's still some work ongoing. So outside of the committee by the staff.
Right.
So,
oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So is it still appropriate that we can go ahead and just indicate the board's direction that we pursue funding? We don't have a dollar amount. We don't know what it is, but you've heard Mr. Mitchell state it would be at the worst-case scenario 50. What was the clerk's estimate in one possible application?
Well, the one-time costs were estimated at $29,000 for the current for the upcoming fiscal year.
Yeah, okay. So we're in those parameters.
Well,
Good to see you.
with all due respect, we're in the process of developing the proposed budget now. We do have a series of recommendations, and we do have a balanced budget at this point in time, although it does change normally. It does change daily. Our preference would be, we certainly agree with the committee that it is an important priority project, but it really is a final budget item, not a proposed budget item, because I simply don't think we have a number that anyone could support at this time. We would just be artificially plugging a number in at the expense of some other program.
Right.
So my preference would be that your board give us direction to make it a priority, and that we would come up with a recommendation for you as part of final budget. But we're not at the point where we can make a recommendation for inclusion in the proposed budget for funding because of the limited funding that we're going to have available. So that would be our office's recommendation.
Well, my concern with that, Mr. Mitchell, is that if we don't say it's 25 or 30, I mean, you're never going to get a hard and fast number, but most of these numbers never are hard and fast. So if we don't put a dollar amount on it, I've been through enough, 3 so far, of these final budget processes, and they are often fractured. They're sometimes done in haste. There's a lot of pressure to make decisions, and I think that that's not the best way to proceed with this project. I think that we need to say it's 25,000. We need to say it's 30. We need to say it's something. I would take your recommendation, but I think we need to say it's a dollar amount, or I'm afraid that it will go to a long list of desired board priorities and not. I just don't want to see us lose momentum on this, and I'm afraid that if we don't allocate or give direction that it's some amount of money to do what we can, perhaps with that amount of money, that it might be abandoned for very good reasons later on. And I just think that then we would lose the momentum we've made, and our time being spent right now would be for naught. That's my sense about it. Just putting on a dollar amount, I think, as an estimate. Sure, 25,000, 30 isn't, it's not a hard and fast number, but it's something to work with, saying it's a commitment that we want to get automated agenda management systems in place, and that might be the phase in. It might not get us there in 1 calendar year, but it's that we're making it a priority.
So,
Allison had a comment, I believe.
yeah. To the board, can I go to staff first? Sure. Okay. Ms. Classy.
Just in terms of the meshing of this discussion with the budget process, I think that the main thing I saw from today's meeting was the committee reporting out and being clear that this was something that you wanted to proceed with, and having the board as a whole endorse that as a motion. And that's very important, because that sends a message to all of us that we need to continue to work together. And indeed, I think we were going to be doing that anyway, but in particular, focusing on, continuing the discussion around online agenda management and the software, et cetera. If you're talking about being able to look at, I think Tom's comments were around grabbing 50,000 and putting that out there. If you're talking about something in the range of around 20 to 25,000, I think with this direction, then that's something that we can look at and see what we've got at this point in the proposed budget. So I don't think it takes saying allocate this at this point, but with this direction, we could certainly look at, something in the 20 to 25,000 range.
And that's true. The action item doesn't give a dollar amount. It just says direct staff to pursue funding.
Yeah.
Okay, Supervisor Pinches.
Well, I'd like to remind this board that, you can put it in a proposed budget, or you can make it a final budget deliberation. But as our meeting yesterday, we left the meeting, and basically we're being told that we still have about $1 million gap. So put it in your proposed, or put it in your final budget, but we still got to close the $1 million gap before we can talk about putting anything in. And
Okay.
that's just a fact. I mean, it's, unless Tom says things change daily, unless somebody's called up and says, hey, we're giving you an extra $1 million, we got a gap of around $1 million according to the figures yesterday. So another thing, if anybody needs any advice on computers, feel free to call me.
Supervisor.
Yeah, I think here what we want to avoid is this becoming a parking lot. Remember that? I don't know if we're still using the parking lot.
I hope.
But this should not be relegated to the parking lot, and it shouldn't be one of those things we bicker about when we're talking about, such non-essential things as fill in the blank. But I think here we'd like to make sure this is given the kind of attention. Otherwise, we would be spinning our wheels. And I think, to the $1 million, let's make this $1,029,000. We're in the hole. In our own minds at least, and make sure that we do not, as I say, push this aside. So there's a placeholder really, or a memo, if you will, with regard to the budget. I don't see anything very profound about it, exactly how we do it, but I think we should take full note of it and recognize that it's a lot of work's gone into it so far by staff, and there's a lot more to be done, and we need to be able to finance it.
I think we'll work with GSA and come up with a number, and then Allison and I and the budget team will look for the final amount and put it in the IT budget as an allocation. So,
Well, and I don't have a problem with that. The goal is to best inform the public. How many dollars allocated to how many members of the public that we can reach today is my concern. I know of folks within a quarter mile of Highway 20 on Potter Valley Road cannot accept PDF files or large files because of the slow connectivity that they have. I know of folks in Deerwood, folks in El Dorado Estates, right in this valley. So the concept, yeah, I approve of. The dollar amount, I have no idea. The problem, I don't quite know yet. We are a rural county. With the expertise of Supervisor Pinches, I think probably you're still on a party phone line up there at your house, if not close. So, I mean, we stretch from high-speed internet to the 1950s in communications still in this county. And I have concern, expending X amount of dollars to reach 10%, 15% of our public, et cetera. I have no problems with the concept. It's just how much dollars do we spend towards trying to achieve this, and it still wouldn't work.
My phone system ties into nothing.
So, Supervisor Smith.
Well, actually, Supervisor, I think it would be actually the reverse. I think we can be pretty much guaranteed it would reach, probably 75% of the populations now, because you look at the city cores of Ukiah, Fort Bragg, and Willits. I don't know. I think the numbers would be higher. Plus, it's got the efficiencies. We need to build on the technology to get the internal efficiencies. So there's also time-saving components for staff and the internal management. It should be great pluses in terms of the efficiencies of the organization overall, not just the public. So I just hope it's the consensus of the board to go forward that they.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.